right, welcome, Boss fans. Welcome to another special month. Today we have a very special guest, near and dear to my heart. He's actually the one that probably transitioned this guy right here into a business coach. He was my very first business coach, and thank goodness I had an awesome one, because if you follow me at all, you know that there are a lot of bad coaches out there that have never owned a business and misguiding people left and right. Today we have Martin Holland. Welcome.
Thank you for that, sir. Thank you. Glad to be here.
He also is responsible for encouraging me to read. I don't know if you remember this. I share this all the time in my content. I think the first time we met as a business coach, you being our business coach, you asked what was the last book we read, and I think I said something like Cat in the Hat to my son. And by the look on your face, you did not find that very funny. And then you said, well, here, because I said I didn't like reading at all. I was not a scholar in school. And so you recommended a book that is now near and dear to my heart as well, my favorite of all time, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And then you got me to love reading, and that's all I do now. And then you also got me to love financials because of your book. So tell us a little bit about the profit problem. They say I make money, so why don't I have any?
Well, there are a lot of things besides financials in a business, and we both know that. Mm-hmm. But financials are the groundwork that tell you how you're doing. And one of the things, and I'll just say there are 32 million businesses in the United States, and the way I like to say it is that just about 32 million of them do not know if they made money last month.
I'll agree with that.
I mean, they might think they do. They're looking at their bank balance and things like that, but they don't know if they made money last month. The way they handle their financials is they turn information over to their accountants in January. They get an extension in April, and they get their final tax return in September, and it says you made a bunch of money. And the subtitle of my book is, the title of my book is The Profit Problem. They say I make money. Why don't I have any? And that's when they say, well, if I made so damn much money, where is it? Right? So I just think it's impossible to manage. Financials are the language of business, and it's impossible. Maybe nothing's impossible. It's highly unlikely that you will thrive in business as a financial illiterate. And most of the people who do have financials use them for paying taxes or maybe placating a bank. I got to get them a balance sheet or something. But they use them for rearward looking purposes. How did we do last year? And what I use books for with my clients is to make decisions about the future. And so my book that's what it's about. It's about how to understand at a very elemental level what financial statements tell you, and then how to use information to make decisions about the future. And I'm running on here, but I'll just give you an example. Last week, I have a really a nice little company, been a client for about a year. They do really well. They're in the millions in sales, and they're making in the mid 100,000s. So it's a really nice thing. And we got their financials, and it's a lady who owns it. She said, well, what should we set as a target for next year? I said, well, that's not a question for me. It's a question for you. She said, well, I think we can double. And I said, okay, but let's look at one thing. Let's go to your balance sheet. She did. I said, how much do you have in accounts receivable? She told me. How much do you have in inventory? She told me. And I said, you realize that and it was about 350,000 combined. I said, do you realize that if you double sales, you're going to need 700,000? What? Yeah. And I mean, there's things we can do to speed up receivables and cut down on inventory. But if you operate the way you're operating right now and you double sales, you're going to need to double the cash that you have available. Can you do that? Well, I don't think so. Mm-hmm. So that is a snapshot vision of how to use financials to make a decision about the future that might have averted a disaster. Mm-hmm. Right? So
yeah, absolutely.
That's what the book is about, how to use financials to make decisions.
Well, and I want to get some of your deep knowledge on financials. That's the topic this month because it is something that every business owner should understand that doesn't. Like you mentioned, most people, in fact, probably most people even watching this use their bank account as kind of their measuring stick. If there's money in the bank, we're doing good. I can make payroll. If there's not, you know what's fixing to hit the fan. I can't sleep at night. But one of the things I do want to push that you break it down so simply. I mean, it's just really like digestible content for any business owner that just doesn't care about financials. This will at least earn your interest.
Well, what I like to do is we're talking about using books as a CFO might use them, which is different than a tax accountant. The CFO is supposed to help you with the future. And to get people's interest, I throw out some stats, such as if you get your gross profit margin up 1%, the average company in the United States net profit will go up 15%. The average company in the United States, if they increase their sales 17% and keep their overhead the same, they'll double their net profit. The average company in the United States, if they raise their prices 10%, they can lose 22% of their business and make the same amount of money. Yeah. On the other side, if they lower their prices 20%, like discounting, they have to do 2 1/3 times more business to stay the same. In other words, double plus 1/3 more to stay the same. And when people see that kind of information, which is available in your books, they go, wait a minute. I'm scared to raise prices because I'm going to lose customers. But if I can lose 1/4 of my business and stay the same, I'll go ahead and raise prices. They do it. They don't lose any customers. They wind up really thriving. So I like to whet their interest with statistics like that and get them at least interested in going to having good financials so that they can decide those kind of things for themselves.
Yeah, no, well, you do a great job. I've read this cover to cover. I don't know how many times I've shared it with clients, and I kind of coach from this. Obviously, I give you credit, but I kind of coach from some of your samples in here because it is so thought out and written very well. So for business owners, we only have a short amount of time, and financials, we could talk all day, especially you and me. But what is probably one of the top areas of financials if a business owner, which is most of us, don't have good, clear financials? What is kind of one topic that you think every business owner should know, understand about financials so that they can have a better business in the future?
Well, I'm going to give you a couple of things maybe. Okay. The first thing is financials were created originally to answer 5 questions. And the questions are, am I making money? Or did I make money? What do I own? What do I owe? What's left over for me? And where did my cash go? Those are the 5 fundamental questions that are answered by financials. They go much deeper than that. And I think the next thing maybe you were looking for or not, but it's the thing I talk about the most is what are my margins, right? So not everybody, some people are straight up cash, but if you sell something and you get $1 worth of sales, you don't get $1 worth of revenue to you. I mean, technically you do, it goes in your company, but you have to spend, let's say 50 cents to buy a dress or $50 to buy a dress that you're going to sell for $100. So your real revenue is $50. Now, how many dresses do I have to sell to pay my overhead and break even? And break even is the point at which you've paid all your expenses with nothing, no loss and no profit. It's also the point at which you begin to make profit. I think a lot of people go through life thinking every day, I make a little money, my landlord makes a little money, my suppliers make a little money, my employees make a little money, insurance, everybody makes a little money every day. It's not true. You do not make anything. Even if you have a huge sale with a lot of quote, and I'm doing air quotes here, profit in it, you do not make any money until you've paid all your expenses. And that doesn't happen until break even. And I have a story in the book. I say it's important to know what that point is for your business, because if you don't break even till the 29th of the month, you better not go fishing on the 30th, because that's the last chance to actually make money before all those monthly bills reset the next month. So understanding your margins and your break even is one of the very first things that I work with clients.
So on the break even, do you know how many clients that I've worked with that can actually give me financials to determine that break even?
Well, I'm going to take a guess here, but it's an educated guess. It's 0.0.
Zero. Correct. So,
And well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, going back to your point of you've got to have clear financials. Like you can't take your accountant all your receipts in a shoebox once a year and expect to be able to forecast and strategize in the future. So,
well, and here's where I am now. I used to try to help really small businesses where the owner had time to do their own books, and I'm so over that.
Yeah,
don't forget it. I mean, if you're interested in it, love it like I do, you want to fine, but you'd already have good books if you were as interested as you and I are, Michael.
Yeah.
Find a good accountant, which I'll define here in just a minute, and get them to do it for you. Okay. It's so easy now, depending on how big your listeners are, but QuickBooks Online, a lot of people don't like it, but get over it. Get QuickBooks Online. Your accountant can keep your books current, and you have to get what I'm going to call closed books every month. So we're coming to the end of October now. By November 15th, you need closed books. And that means the bank account's reconciled, invoicing done, the inventory's right, your payables are all entered, so that you can look back and see, how did I really do? What are my margins? What is my break even? So that you can make decisions about the future. And just a vanishingly small proportion of business owners have that information. Well, it's 0.0.
Yeah, right.
There's some out there who do. I just haven't met them.
I haven't either. I'm sure there are. And in fact, our audience is they're probably all solid. They're not the 0%.
0.0s. And let me give you one other thing here. I said earlier that if you raise your gross profit margin by 1%, and I mean like from 35% to 36%, the average company, which makes 6.9% net profit before taxes, their profit will go up 15%. Okay, that's just math.
Mm-hmm.
So we've narrowed the idea of financials down to something. How can I improve my margins by 1%? Now we're focused on something. It depends on what you do. I'll give you one thing. Raise your damn prices 1%.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Well, it can't be that simple. Yeah, it can. I mean, if you keep your overhead the same, don't.
I was going to say, don't go buy Super Bowl tickets or something. You got to keep your costs down.
Yeah, or Thunder tickets, right?
Right.
But it focuses at how I often say, I don't always know how to do that, but my clients always do. Okay. So depending on whether we're talking contractors or what it is, credit cards, there's 3%. Well, you can't necessarily get rid of all credit cards, but you can maybe recover that, like you're reluctant to do, add a 3% credit card charge. Can't do that because, well, that's 3 times. And yes, it multiplies. It's 14 or 15, 30, 45%. You get your margins up 3%, net profit goes up 45%. What? That's just the math. If you're a contractor, that kind of people, we say, where are you losing labor? Where are you losing materials? Begin to pay attention to those individual kind of things. Like, do the guys leave the shop every morning at 7, or are they cruising in and then go to the convenience store, right? Do they not finish that job? We'll come back and do it tomorrow. Where if they finish the job today, you can do one more job per week. But anyway, it starts to focus you on little things, or your interests on little things you can actually do that make a difference. And that's why having the books and realizing the impact, and you can see how you did next month. If you got it 1% better, you go, wow, look at that, right? So they're critical to managing any business, all the way down to telling you specifically what you need to do.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned how easy QuickBooks is and all that stuff. The affordability or the cost of having that done too is so minimal now compared to what it used to be, because there wasn't a QuickBooks Online available. The accountants had to do a lot more, but now it's very affordable as well. So I just encourage everybody to seek out an accountant. But also, you were going to mention the type of accountant. So you mentioned that earlier. You'll get into that. So what?
I love accountants. I have a great deal of respect for them, but they come in different flavors, right? There are cost accountants, there are tax accountants, there are forensic accountants, there are audit accountants. There are all kinds of people who are in accounting, right? And it's not that they can't do it, it's that they won't do it. If I'm a tax accountant, I want to do taxes, I don't have time to post your daily entries, right? So they do have, they come in different varieties, and you're looking for a cost accountant or a really sophisticated bookkeeper who can understand margins, things like that, why it's important to keep things separate, and why it's important to keep them current, and to show you ideas like they can calculate your break even for you. You don't have to do it. They can tell you what it is, right? So you got an ally in that, rather than somebody who's just piling up a bunch of records and, we'll put them into your accounts between Christmas and New Year's, and then we'll tell you what your taxes are, right? Yeah. So you're trying to find a cost accountant or a really quality bookkeeper. And we won't talk about what makes quality bookkeeper, but there are people out there keeping books that don't know what they're doing. But looking for an accountant who manages quality bookkeepers.
What is kind of one other area that business owners you feel should understand? Obviously, there's a lot to understand, but something that would really benefit them knowing today.
Well, I think probably even of more interest than profit to people is cash, because you can't pay your bills, you can't make payroll. Everybody knows you got to make payroll on Monday or Friday, and you don't have cash to do that. And there's an old saying, you can't go broke making a profit. Yeah. Well, that's wrong. You can go spectacularly broke making a profit. And why is that? And that goes back to the title of the book. They say I make money, which is a profit, so why don't I have any? Well, you can make money, but not have cash. And there are three reasons for that. And the first one is you haven't been paid yet. In other words, you made a profit, but you have accounts receivable, right? So you haven't been paid yet. The second one is you already spent the money buying assets or paying off debt, okay? Buying assets are not expenses, so you can still make a profit. But if you buy a bunch of inventory, or you buy a truck, or you pay down on a building or something like that, you use your cash to do it, you'll make a profit, but you won't have any cash. And the third reason is you took it as the owner. And if an owner takes money out of a business, that is not an expense, that's a dividend. So it's quite possible that you could make a profit, but have taken it all to go on vacation to Maui and just not keep track of it. And you think people would keep track of that, but they don't. So it happens more often than not that people make a profit, but have, at the very best, less than they made in profit as available cash to do things. So cash management, and there is a report that deals with that. It's a little bit deep for this conversation, especially if we're not looking at a screen, but it tells you exactly where your cash went. And the advantage of knowing that is that if you understand what the problem is, you can do something about it. For example, speed up the collections on your accounts receivable, right?
I think one of the businesses you coached us I think we kind of had that problem. We did have that problem.
To listeners, they hear somebody say something like that, they're thinking, oh man, I don't want to call everybody up. I hate that. Well, how about this? How about prompt billing? How about you bill at 4:30 in the afternoon as soon as the job's complete, instead of waiting, I'll give it to Wanda and she'll do it on Tuesday, and she's sick that day anyway, how about prompt billing? It is our company policy that if it's before 5 o'clock, we're billing everything today. That's a place to start. So when you realize the effect of that, you can do some things that maybe you're reluctant to do.
Yeah, it's amazing, just the little things. And I do want to touch real quick on the accounting side, because I experienced something this year. I have a fantastic, fabulous accountant that believe in August, she told me, if you do this, this, and this, you will not owe taxes next year. Invest in this. But that's the power of an accountant. It was August, already telling me for the rest of the year, because she closes out my book. She knows, she's in tune since the first of the year. She's been with me she knows everything that's going on. She knows what I'm doing, where our focus is. That's the power of an accountant. And most business owners don't get that. They worry.
You make a good point, because her telling you in August makes you aware. But one thing that happens all the time is between Christmas and New Year's, somebody goes out and buys something stupid.
Yes.
Because, hey, if you I had a guy buy a sign one time, because $140,000 sign saved me $40,000 in taxes, but it just about wiped out his cash.
Yeah.
Right. So I say, but you have time to make that decision. It's not a snap decision that causes you to buy something to save on taxes that you don't really need and wipes out your cash and causes you no end of difficulties going forward.
Yeah, to add to that one more, I'm sure we could tell stories all day, but I work with a business owner that got about $500,000. They're a contractor, and they got about $500,000 up front. It was half down. They deposited that on December 31st. So you know where I'm going. So they owed a lot of taxes on just because they deposited that one check. And if they would have had a good accountant, they would have said, no, that's for next year's project, next year's taxes. And they were stuck with $100,000.
A whole show on advisors and mentors. Accountants are just one. There's bankers, lawyers, IR people, or IT people, HR people, insurance people, that as a business owner, those things can all wipe you out if you get them wrong.
Yep.
I almost did.
Also quite certain that you, Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner, are not going to be very good at those things.
Yeah.
You know, how much time you spend doing your IT, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we could do a whole.
Yes. Sounds like we have another show coming up.
Yep.
Well, we're about out of time here. Any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Words of wisdom. Yeah, one thing is, the most successful business owners I know see business as an adventure. Okay. And adventures have difficulties. Otherwise, it's not an adventure, but you triumph over them. They have the joy, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. But I encourage people not to stress and die over their business, but look at it as an adventure and respectfully submit. If you can't ultimately do that, maybe you don't need to be in business.
Right. I would second that. Well, thanks again for showing up today. This has been very beneficial. Thank you for all you've done for me and your book. If someone wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, Martin at annealbc.com, and that's ANNEALBC.com. You can find my book on Amazon, The Profit Problem. They say I make money, so why don't I have any?
Okay.
My contact information is all over the book.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And we can't do this without our friends at Design Tunnel as well for providing the podcast space. If you need one, be sure to reach out to them as well. Thank you again, Martin, and we will see you next month.
My pleasure.